There are few things worse than trying to boot your computer and realizing that Windows failed to start, and then it shows the dreaded message about attempting to repair that basically never works. But that could be a thing of the past, at least in some cases, with a relatively new feature in Windows that you'll definitely want to make sure is enabled. The feature is called Quick Machine Recovery, and it's found in the settings, but there's a bit more to it than just a few toggles. So I'm going to go over what it's all about, what it looks like when it's actually being used, and some other advanced interesting settings with it as well. I'm Theo, and let's get into it. Now, specifically, this feature can be enabled by going into the Settings menu, and then System, Recovery, and then Quick Machine Recovery, and you just toggle on the main thing at the top. For Windows 11 Home Edition, it will be enabled by default, but for all other editions, including Pro Edition, it will not be on by default. You'll have to do that yourself. There's a few other settings, such as this one for continue searching if a solution isn't found. This is always going to be off by default, regardless of the edition. I'll cover what these other settings do in a second, but you're probably wondering what the main feature does in the first place. And the way that Microsoft describes it is it's for situations where there's widespread boot failures across many different computers. For example, maybe a bad Windows update or something like that CrowdStrike debacle from a while ago where computers all over the world, millions of them, failed to boot because of an update. So if such a thing happens, Microsoft can create a fix that they host on the Windows Update servers so that when a bunch of the computers or any computer calls home with this information saying, hey, this is what's wrong, then it will check and say, oh yeah, that means that you need this update to fix it. And then the feature will implement whatever instructions it's given to automatically do that fix. Now that we know what it does, let's quickly take a look at the other settings in here, and then I'll show you how it works. As we saw before, there's this continue searching option, which is not on by default, but that makes it so if it doesn't find a fix through the Windows Update internet first, it will try again periodically and say, do you have a fix for this problem yet? And keep checking. And this one seems to be for computers probably that are remotely accessible only, not going to have a person sitting in front of it. So this could include a Windows server or just one that is not really easily accessible. Like we saw in the CrowdStrike problem, there was computers that were up high near the ceiling, working TVs and stuff like that you had to get on a ladder to access. It might be for that sort of thing. If it does find a fix, it will apply it and then boot Windows afterwards once it does. And then in addition to the option for periodically just checking for updates, there's this other option for how often to restart. And this seems to be completely separate from the thing for checking updates. And I guess it's for in case restarting just happens to magically fix it anyway. Like maybe if it's an external problem of some kind where simply restarting it would fix it. Now, as a regular user, you probably don't need to actually have it automatically keep checking for updates and restarting because you'll be in front of it. It will still check with Microsoft for an fix, and then you'll still have the option to manually have it recheck. So you can do it if you want, but probably not necessary. I'm not sure if Microsoft has had a chance to actually use this for fixing anything yet, but I imagine it could be used for crashes caused by third-party software or bad drivers or even a specific strain of malware. Now, before I get to what the recovery process looks like, one great way to protect yourself from hacks and malware in the first place is with today's sponsor, Bitdefender, and their all-in-one security plan, Bitdefender Premium Security. It's more than just some antivirus program, but a complete security suite, including advanced threat defense, which can protect against brand new malware by analyzing its behavior, not just relying on signatures, though of course it can detect them that way too. And with exploit detection, it can also detect malware that exploits a vulnerability in an otherwise legitimate application, like a zero-day exploit that an app hasn't patched yet, or if the app is really old and was never patched. Bitdefender can detect more than just malicious apps though. It also detects malicious scripts, command line commands, process memory, keyloggers, and more. And with features like network threat prevention, it can stop network attacks before they begin by blocking malicious attempts on system vulnerabilities and brute force attacks. With Bitdefender Premium Security, you even get protection for your mobile devices, where it can detect malicious links even when they appear in SMS messages, chat apps, calendar invites, or mobile app URLs. It also has online scam protection through their Scam Copilot AI platform, including features like scam ad detection to block fake or malicious ads, blocking scam websites, and detecting new scam patterns. And right now, you can get a special 90-day extended free trial for Bitdefender Premium Security through the link in the description, so be sure to check out the link down there. And with all that being said, let's continue. All right, now let's see what Quick Machine Recovery looks like in action. I'm testing this on a virtual machine, and I really did do something to cause a legitimate crash at the start. Anyway, you'll notice when Windows fails to start, it seems to initially just go through the usual automatic attempt to repair process, and then eventually it'll say connecting to network, and then looking for solutions. If it is not able to find a fix and you do not have that continue searching option enabled, it'll just say to click or press enter for more recovery options. It's not going to try again. However, after you do click or press enter, you will see this option where it will initiate another manual check whenever you do. And if it doesn't find it, again, it'll do the same thing where you manually check. Now, if you do have that continue searching thing enabled, it will say we couldn't repair your device automatically at this time, and then also that it will check again in however many minutes. And you can still press enter or click to view the more options. And again, just click quick machine recovery to manually run it immediately without it having to wait. And if it's getting to the point where it's almost time to restart, like it's going to restart before the next check comes, it will instead say, keep your device on, we'll restart in however many minutes. Now, if it does find a fix, it will apply it right away. It's not like it has to wait for the next restart time. It'll just boot right into Windows once it's able to apply. And if it does apply a fix, that will show up in the Windows Update history. I will point out there's also a process for using a test simulation of this. That's just with a couple commands, and it looks pretty similar, but if you want to get an idea of what it looks like yourself. Now, there are some more advanced options for this feature. Like if you're working in IT, this might be relevant. Microsoft does have an article talking about these other configurations. One thing I'll point out is in this article, they use some other terms like cloud remediation and auto remediation. The naming is confusing, but cloud remediation is apparently just the quick machine recovery feature in general. And then the auto remediation is basically that option to periodically keep checking. Now, for setting advanced configuration features, you can actually create an XML configuration file, and that's for if you need to deploy the same configuration across many different computers, like for a company. And you can see the current configuration in this XML format if you use this command here that's from this article. For the most part, these settings correspond to the same options you see in the menu, but you can customize it a little bit more. Now, the auto remediation, again, refers to that continue checking option for whether it's on or off. And wait interval is how long between the checks, and total wait time is the time between full reboots. However, you can actually set this to as little or much time exactly as you want, not just the options in the dropdowns. Like to see what the restart thing looked like, I just set mine to 5 minutes, and that's how I was able to see without waiting 3 hours. Also, if you use the XML file, you can actually input a Wi-Fi SSID, so the network name, as well as a password, so that if Windows fails to boot, it'll be able to connect to a wireless network if it has to, and it's not wired. And again, you probably don't need to do that because you would just be at the computer to do it. There's also this headless option that shows up in the XML that I couldn't really figure out what it's for. It's not documented anywhere. I tried changing it to enabled by setting it to 1, but I didn't notice it did anything, so I'm not really sure what it does. Maybe it's just not fully implemented. Now, as for some other thoughts about this feature, I think it's a great idea. When I first heard about it, I was kind of hoping that it would be used to be able to repair system files, like a more general thing where it could check for any kind of corruption, but that doesn't seem to be the case. For example, on a virtual machine, I tested just deleting the kernel 32 file and see if it would be able to detect that, but it didn't. I thought it might be able to just download a current image of Windows and say, oh, this file's missing. But no, it seems to be only for targeted specific issues. Though this is still relatively the early days of the feature, so hopefully over time they'll branch out. Instead of just doing big global events, maybe they'll build up a more robust library of smaller issues that can be fixed automatically that it can check for. It also probably would be pretty cool if it did have the ability, like I described before, for sort of doing a basic in-place reinstall of Windows where it replaces all the system files but doesn't touch any of your settings. And actually, in the settings menu, there is an option to repair Windows that basically does just that. So I hope they do add something like that that's more automatic. Though still, I think this feature is really only a good thing, so just make sure you have it enabled. It's only going to be to your benefit. Now, I would be curious though, have you guys ever had that automatic repair actually work? I don't know if I can remember it ever working. And also, maybe you've actually had this new feature work. We could talk about that all down in the comments. Thanks again to Bitdefender for sponsoring, and be sure to check out the 90-day extended free trial of Bitdefender Premium Security through the link in the description. Now, if you want to keep watching, next I'll put a couple of videos like how I talk about creating one file in Windows can cause a blue screen boot loop, and that's actually how I tested it here. And also another video about how to fix almost any Windows corruption. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a big giant thumbs up. It helps out. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.